All right. Gave Walter the extra time this week. How's everybody doing today? We're going to have some fun, hopefully. A spirited discussion, I'm sure. First of all, thank you for everybody being here. I think BB's supposed to be here, hopefully. If not, we'll roll on our own. And I do have my Foundational Blues Licks course on sale for half off if you guys are interested in that. It's a great way to help out the channel. I know a lot of you guys have that already. But I still have it for sale if you guys are interested. So you get that using the link in the chat or down below. And, of course, all the other stuff going on. We got the Inner Circle you could take a look at. That's through my channel. It's where you get everything. We do twice monthly lessons online, live, a group lesson. And that's been going really well. So you can check that out. That's the Inner Circle. And, okay. So everybody's here, which is great. All right, so let's talk about the topic of today, and is why. What did I call it? I got a few things. Why are guitarists so obsessed with brands? And so I'm actually want to talk about a bunch of this stuff. 'Cause it's pretty fun. I did a video a few days ago. You might have seen talking about my PRS, and now of course I did give it a bit of a rage baity title of a 335 killer, and I love, as I clearly state, I love 335s. I've owned a few of them. I never seem to hold on to them, though. Maybe something kind of cooler comes along that I need to flip it for, because I just kind of go through that. I've gone to a lot of guitars, unlike my friend Angus, who seems to hold on to all of them. I end up flipping them because I find something I like better, and then I'll end up rebuying something. And the 335, as much as I absolutely love 335s, which I do, I just find it kind of hard for me to want to gig with because they're a little big. And so I'm trying to be pretty pragmatic about the guitars that I play. And am I going to bring this on a gig? And so in the case of this PRS with the semi-hollow, I already played it on a few gigs, one with Angus, and I've been enjoying it greatly. So, but it is funny the amount of hate that this could bring about that you decided to impugn a 335, which I did not. So I wanted to talk about it. I think it's kind of funny, and I found it to be really fascinating. I think it's just in life, and it comes down to a bunch of things. I got my notes here for today, my Unabomber scribbles of things I want to talk about with this. The first thing I think it really comes down to is kind of like a tribalism thing. People have their tribes of what it is that they like, and they identify it as who they are as part of their identity. So whether it's a sports team, whether it's Apple versus PC, I'm an Apple guy. Why am I an Apple guy? Because I always was. That's why. You know what I mean? I just started on one, and then when I look at a PC, I have no idea what to do with the thing. So that's some of those preferences start. One, they can come from that's all you're used to. But I find it's interesting. Clearly, PCs are good computers as well, So I think it becomes part of how you identify yourself. I'm a Fender guy. I'm a Gibson guy. I'm a whatever guy. And I think, although that can be cool for the brand, I think I just find it to be pretty shocking that how incensed people can get. And they get incensed more by certain brands than others, PRS being one of the ones that people get to be really incensed by for some reason. I'm not exactly 100% sure. But what I found was kind of funny is if we talk about other brands, I think if we just talk about guitars and then we talk about, say, something about PRS, and they're like, oh, that guitar sounds generic. And I always wonder what that means. So what does an Ibanez sound like? What does a Schecter sound like? What does a Music Man sound like? What does a Strandberg sound like? What does a Novo sound like? So I think we have these touchstones, especially people in my demographic, which is really 45 older and 35 up, old guy stuff relatively. And our touchstones for these things is always going to be probably Fender and Gibson and probably Gretsch, maybe Gretsch in there. So when people say, that thing that doesn't sound, it sounds generic because it doesn't sound like a Fender or it doesn't sound like a Gibson, right? So it doesn't sound like what we associate say, a humbucker guitar to be. And I find it's interesting because, I mean, there's of course there's aesthetics that you may like, more conservative or not. Now, look, this is my Michael Tuttle signature guitar. It sounds like a Strat because it basically is a Strat, but fine-tuned to the way I like Strats, and it's hand-built, so there's a level of quality that you're not going to get from a off-the-shelf Fender. And so I think a big part of it is we have these iconic sounds in our head that we associate with, that's the way something should sound. And if it doesn't sound like that thing I'm used to it sounding exactly like, it can really, piss a lot of people off, which I find to be kind of funny. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this stuff, guys. So for me, if we talk about, I played Marshalls most of my life. And I was a Marshall guy. And then Marsha. So then I got a Bogner, and then, worked with Reinhold and really good guys there. And then so a bit more modern stuff. And then I got, then I had my Marshall. And then I started working with Two-Rock. And I started realizing, like, oh, wow, there's a lot of, this is really cool too. Like for me, it was Marshalls. That's it. And I love Two-Rocks. And now I've also learned to love Fender amps. And I've also learned to love AC30s, for different things. So for someone like me, a lot of these things really become tools. So this has become a great tool for me in many ways that my old Gibson could not be. So I've really tried to break out of some of these ideas or preconceptions as to what is good and what's bad. So I'm trying to get people's feelings on this because I think it's important to question your thoughts on these things. I play this, and well, why do you play that? Because I've always played that. Okay, so does that make the new thing bad? So let's just say we talk about, as I said in the video, I went in to buy a 335. I had a few guitars I'm trading. Got my good friends over at Watchtower Guitars, and we were always wheeling and dealing, because we're friends, and they cut me deals, and I cut them deals, and I bring them people to go shop there because they have the best, and all this kind of stuff. So brought a guitar to trade in to get a 335 again. That would be my fourth that I haven't kept. I had my Collings, which I really loved, but I sold it for my old Strat. I needed to pretty much liquidate everything to get that guitar. And then I had a P91, which I just never really bonded with. I had another one. I didn't end up liking the neck. And I had you guys might remember, I had a Murphy Lab 64, which was really, really good. But I ended up trading that and some other stuff for yet another old Strat, a 68 Strat that I've just sold. I sold the red 68 Strat, my friends, because it's not really playing it. And my good friend loves it. So I'm very happy that it's found a very good, happy home. So I never ended up keeping that. So I was going to get a 335 and went in and try it and play it. And then I tried the DGT semi-hollow, and then the guitar just kind of spoke to me a little bit more. Well, a lot more, actually. Both physically, the way it played, I felt like I was going to play this thing on a gig. And did that 335 sound bad? No, it sounded like a 335, which is awesome because I love the way 335 sound. And the funny thing is, as I said in the video, which people don't pay attention, I said, I'm probably going to get a 335 at some point again. I love 335s. They're awesome. I love them. But this is the one that made more sense to me because of the layout of the guitar, the size of it. I'll bring it to gigs. If you watch the video, it feels like a Fender on this hand right here. So for me, that's a really important thing. So it inspired me to play guitar. And I have to say, since I've gotten this guitar, I've gigged it more than any 335 I've ever owned. And I've probably played it more than any 335 I've ever owned. And I've owned some pretty nice 335s. So, all right. So other thoughts I have on this, there's a lot of tradition too. Like, this is what Hendrix played, so that's what I'm going to play. A lot of people say like, oh, if it doesn't say Fender on the headstock, I'm not going to play it. That's up to you. But I find it interesting that that people get really angry about it. I know other people, like somebody I know did a video on why they don't like Tube Screamers, and got beaten up for not liking Tube Screamers, which is just it's ridiculous when you really think about all of this stuff. But I mean, it goes back way back in history. Like I said, sports games. There's tombstones in like ancient Rome where people basically have like on their epitaph, "Go Mets." You know, like the equivalent of whatever time thing that they were rooting for at the time, with chariot racer at the time. So it's nothing new. And kind of stream of conscious. Hopefully, this is interesting at all. But let's get some of your thoughts on this, because I think it can lead to, certainly as a YouTuber myself, when people have those comments, I'm like, really? It's just a guitar. You got to lighten up. Like, wow. But people take those things very, very personally. But I think so that's my sort of take on it. I think it comes from people's identities, whether it comes down to watches that people like, or car manufacturers, or Harleys versus anything else. And people get really, really invested in it. You know, I know Harley kind of things, some of those things are a bit more about lifestyle. But for me, as I've kind of gotten older as a professional musician, I have some of the traditional stuff, and I love it. And I've also learned to embrace some of the other more modern things because I can play a certain way. I mean, I tried a few Charvels recently, but the necks were too thin for my hand and hurt my hand. So I ended up keeping them. All right, so other thoughts that I have on this. I think some of this is an age thing, too. Definitely my demographics. I think a lot of younger people, you're talking about things like PRS, a lot of younger people just don't even question it. They just play them because they've grown up with them. So I think when you have somebody later coming to the game 40 years later, and the aesthetic of PRS, whether it's your thing or not, I think that's a big part of it, that people like, oh, those are lawyer, doctor guitars. And I used to feel that way. And I've talked about this, that like, in New York City 20 or something years ago, when I first, maybe longer ago, when I tried my first DGT, long before I was friends with David or didn't really know much about PRS, I remember playing it going, this is a great guitar. I really like this. And my friend at the store was like, no, you can't. I'm not going to let you buy that because, you can't play a PRS. And it was like a whole funny thing. I kind of bought into it, and it is funny. And I did a recording session not that long ago, and the guy commented on how good the guitar sounds were, and oh man, the guitars sound great, blah, blah, blah. What were you using? Was that your Gibson? I'm like, no, it was actually all PRS. And he was like, oh, okay. Because for me, it just worked best. And what I liked about it was it didn't sound like a Les Paul. Now, I love Les Pauls, but you know what I'm saying? They're very distinctive sounding. So I think that's part of the psychology of all of this. Now, what it could lead to, for me, which is, as somebody commented earlier, that YouTube makes these things worse. Part of me, I hate to use the word blessed, because what does that mean? I don't really believe in that. I'm very fortunate that to own the things that I do, because the people I'm friends with and the way I've lived my life and blah, 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 blah. But there is a part of me that just misses having that two guitars or one guitar in your amp. Now, I could go back to that, but professionally, I can't. And I do like this stuff. But having those days where you just get overloaded with the ideas of what you should play or how you should play it. And I fall prey to this too. And sometimes it really flips me out that I'm thinking about this kind of stuff. Like, what am I doing? I should just put all that aside. Who cares what anybody thinks? Because really, who cares what anybody thinks, really? And just, play music and get back into it. So one thing I end up doing is I end up putting some of my guitars that I have away. Yeah, I'm thinning out the herd again. Every once in a while I do that, just try to thin out everything so I don't have as much clutter in my mind about gear. And I know, like I said, I'm very fortunate, but it's what I do for a living. But some days you're like, yeah, I've just got too much gear that I'm not using. I just need to get rid of some of these things. And will I regret selling some stuff? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not selling anything I can't replace. So I think there's a level of happiness that this stuff can really start to beat you up on too, which is interesting. And then, okay. I have my notes, like I said, my Unabomber scribblings. Yeah, man, it's I think the fantasy too of, if I own that guitar, I will sound like that person. I think that's something that a lot of people go for as well. My friend's a camera guy. Oh, he's a photographer, professional photographer. Leica versus, he's a Leica guy. And it gets this heated thing to another, like, oh, those stink and blah, blah, blah. Only, snobs use those, or, so people commenting, Keith's talking about bicycle, like Schwinn guys, I guess, right? So I don't know anything about it. So it's all over the place. I remember talking to my wife about it. I'm like, are women like this? She's like, I can't think of anything. But that's not my wife. But it's got to be true. Like, I like these. Right. So I said to her, what about Apple versus PC? And she's like, oh, yeah. I hate PCs. And I'm like, okay. So it's the same kind of thing, Clons versus Tube Screamers. I hate clons. Tube Screamers are horrible. Terrible. All right. Let me see what I had some many other thoughts. I don't know if this is interesting or not. But I loved when, some of the comments I got was like, when I was playing a PRS, I'm a shill for the company, even though I traded guitars for that guitar. I'm a shill. But nobody ever called me a shill for playing Fenders or Gibsons. Only when I played the PRS am I considered a shill, which is ridiculous. They give everyone with a name those guitars. So it's a rather large amount of people to give guitars away to in the world, how many millions, billions of people in the world? All right. So, and I think, I think that's kind of, what do you guys think? I'd love to get your opinions on this kind of stuff. I'll talk about some guitar playing too, if you want. I just thought it was kind of an interesting topic to get into without getting heated. And it really comes down to, who the hell cares? That's the thing that always makes me crazy. It's like, really? You care that much? That's ridiculous. That's completely ridiculous, And it usually comes down to the people who you can't ever hear them play, So there's a lot of the things that you have to remember when these biases come about is, when you hear them play or you never hear them play, and you're like, I think you should spend a little bit more time on the instrument than online, commenting on the instrument. It's usually the case. Now, I get guilty sometimes of getting sucked into it. I did get I misrepresented what guitar Eric Clapton played on Crossroads, and I did receive some stuff, some comments about that, which I thought was kind of funny too. Though, to somebody's credit, I went back and forth a little bit, and a guy emailed me and apologized because and so there you go. People aren't as bad as you sometimes think. The internet's a strange place. All right, let's see if we got some kind of comments and questions. Where's BB at? I guess I hope he's doing okay. I don't see him. All right, let's see what we got. I like old guitars. I do have some Schechters, but the rest of my guitar collections are Gibson, Fender, Rickenbacker, Epiphone. Yeah, with a lot of these things, it's just, they're tools. I'm not super precious about my guitars. I got some guitars that I hope to have until I can't play them anymore. But if they went away, I would just play something else. I know how to choose good guitars at this point. A lot of confidence that I could replace kind of everything I had. And I don't own anything of, super great emotional value. I'm not real attached to those things. I'm not that way as a person, generally speaking, I find. I mean, there's things I like comforts, but I'm not like, oh, if that's the guitar and that were gone, I'd be heartbroken. I think I would more be, financially and heartbroken that my old Strat got stolen. But does it have deep emotional bonds for me? No, because it wasn't given to me by my dad or something like that. So I kind of like that about how I am. All right. Let's see what we got here. Everyone likes tacos. Angus Clark's here. Right, okay, S.C. Nesbitt, point about the Tube Screamers. Anybody who doesn't like a Tube Screamers maybe never played one live. You see, these are all these things that we're talking about, right? So a lot of times people get really upset, and you're like, have you ever... One guy was talking about the guitars and, Gibson, this and that, and then he puts, but I've never tried a PRS. And you're like, okay, cool. So that was pretty funny. Keith... Hi, what's up, Keith? 5 Watt World. I was surprised that the Harley guys gave me a pass on my Ducati, right? Just a very different thing. Sean Varley, what's going on, man? Interesting topic. I usually play a Telecaster, and when I work with a Motown band, I think the vibe and look is important. The other guitar player typically is playing a 335 or a Les Paul. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah, if I'm going to play a blues gig or something very traditional, and that's part of my job, it's like wearing the right uniform, right, the right suit for the gig. So I'll bring something very traditional. I won't bring that to if I'm whenever it happens like a honky tonk gig. I did something like that about a year ago, and I brought a Fender because that's what people want to see is a Fender. They don't want to see me play something like that. So I get that. That's being a professional, and that's reading the room. Excuse me. And I think that's kind of important. But on my gig, between this and that, like when I played that, I was just so comfortable and it felt great. And it was, as I was talking about in the video, it's like Strat-like in the way it feels, but it's humbuckery, it's Gibson-y, but it's not quite as heavy as a Gibson, like thick-wise. It's got its own thing that really works well with my music. And it's just yet another tool. Okay. For your church gig, let the Freak Frag fly. Play anything. Last week I played a Vi Pia. Those are cool. Same goes for, this is from Quincy, who's always first on the list. Same goes for producers. They want to see a certain brand on the headstock instead of the sound they're looking for. Yeah, I've talked to David Grissom about it. And he's gone to sessions with his signature guitar, and he sounds like him. And the guy's like, oh, did you bring that Les Paul? He's like, oh, I thought you were going to bring Les Paul. He pulls it out and plays it. And he said almost like 99% of the time they end up going for the PRS track. Now, the reason why I liked that in this case, without sounding like PRS fanboy, they just stayed in tune really well. The intonation was spot on. And they didn't sound as distinctive as a Les Paul at that point in time. And when I played a solo with the Les Paul, it was clearly a Les Paul, and that was cool, And I put Strat on stuff and Tellys and other things. But for the kind of rock and rhythm stuff, it was the PRSs, and it just sat perfectly well in the mix. And it didn't sound, or it sounded good next to the Les Paul. So you had these two different sounds. So, tools. Eric Wade, it's my experience that these people get into angry debates about guitars are prone to getting to angry debates about anything else. It's not about the brand, it's about ego investment. Yeah, I would say, I wish I could, I don't have my thing where I can call that up. But yeah, I agree with you entirely, that people can get really heated about all sorts of stuff that they feel very deeply about, and would probably argue, like I said, about many other things. Good point. Okay, I've gotten to, this is, but wait, I'll make sure I get everything. Dave Keltner, this is Dave Keltner. I've gotten to the point that it doesn't have to say Gibson or Fender on the headstock. Can't afford the $1,000, $3,000 guitars, so look at other brands as long as they are S style or LP style. Yeah, for sure. There's so many great brands that are making better things at those price point than Fender is, to be honest. And I love Fenders, but that's just, I've played a lot of guitars, and that's been the case. All right. I also love to see what makes people happy. Just makes me happy when a buddy gets a new piece of gear. I'm excited over their excitement. Makes me want to go and play my own guitars, for sure. Absolutely. This is Buddy Lobos. I had the unfortunate experience of owning 4 1950s Les Pauls for many years. They're all gone now. Everything feels like less. Really miss my 1950s special. Look, let's be honest. I mean, like the greatest guitar I've ever owned, and still own the greatest guitar one of the greatest guitars I've ever played is my 53 Les Paul. Yeah, those are amazing because it's an old wood. And the only way you really get like a new Les Paul does it sound close? It can come fairly close. We can get into all that stuff. But there is something amazing about an old instrument. I think that's a different topic. Like a vintage instrument. I'll still go back to what Matt Schofield said on the air with me one day. He's like, not all vintage instruments are great, but the best guitars I've played happen to have been vintage. And I'm with him on that. So I put that in a different category. A great vintage guitar, it's hard to beat. It's that old wood, and it's hopefully been played a long time. And like not all vintage guitars are great, but the old ones, when you get a great old one, I think they're the best for sure. Yeah, but sometimes those old guitars come with a bunch of stuff. One, they come with certainly the expense of owning one, insurance. Do you bring it with you? Do you play that? Do you travel with it? So for me, I also really want to feel like I want to be able to bring the guitar freely on a gig. And though I know all my guitars are premium guitars, of course, I'm going to use them. I bring my old Strat on gigs, but I don't really necessarily want to travel to Europe with it. Robin was always like, the Les Paul I own was his, and he would put it overhead in a crappy gig bag and just kind of like throw the thing around, which was amazing to me. So, I'd rather not worry about it and just bring something that is not low quality, but something that is replaceable and really kind of problem free. And Robin's talked about that. I'm talking about Robin Ford with his PRS model, and we talked long about it even before he got involved with him. I played some of the prototypes and stuff. He's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, you're gonna get heat for playing one, but he's like, "Yeah, but they're always in tune and they play great and there's just no issues. You just pick it up and you play it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, there is that." And that is a really big thing, especially if I'm performing on gigs. So then there's the studio stuff versus the live stuff, if you're that fortunate. Some of those things live will, is it worth it? Will they translate? I don't know. But does this Tuttle sound like my 64? Close enough for me. It's when you A-B them and you go, yeah, this 64 has got something, but this has got something that I'm completely happy with. And if Angus is still here, the old comment of never A-B. Like, man, this amp sounds great, or this plug-in, man, I got my fractal dialed in just perfectly. It sounds amazing. And then you plug it into your real Marshall or something. You're like, oh, it sounds really good, but that just, So that's the way I find generally with vintage guitars. That sometimes if it's a great vintage guitar, there's always going to be a certain magic to it. But you're also going to pay those prices for it. Okay. Let me go there. Let me go back some questions. I want to get everybody's stuff here. Have you ever had anything stolen? Your whole outlook on gear will change. Yeah. I fortunately not have anything major stolen. I had a few like pedals stolen, but not a guitar. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, I just don't want those really nice guitars stolen. So I mean, not that these are nice. I don't want something irreplaceable stolen. That's my point. Okay. Victor Beebe, I'm a member of the Hawaiian Motorcycle Club, Kawapuna, excuse me. The real Harley Club, and they didn't say anything when I started riding a Triumph Rocket 3. Well, that's cool. Some guy, I'm just making generalizations, of course. Have you tried Reverend guitars? Oh, those are great. Reverend guitars are great. Nick Rainville, what's going on? How's it going? Good to see you. Victor Lobos, Buddy Lobos. Maybe my 50s are just legendary in my mind. Maybe. Who knows? But there is something cool about it. It's like guitar porn when you see those pictures. It's great. Yeah, okay. My 55 Black Beauty was my main guitar, but when it got over $30,000, I got worried. I understand what you mean. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Tommy Ballard. I sat in the back of a limo with Steve Morse when he said he did not like PRS guitars because the pickups were in the wrong place. This was a 22 fret PRS. Love your thoughts on that. I don't find that way at all. He might not like the scale length of 25. When you look at his guitar, he's got those pickups all over the place. So I don't know how he could play that. I mean, obviously he does. I mean, Steve Morse. But for me, I would be hitting those pickups all the time. No, I think I've pretty much settled on my favorite model is the DGT for sure. They make other great stuff. I mean, but I just love where everything is located. The 594s I think are really cool, but they're the same position pickup wise or volume and tone as as a Les Paul. So I like the ones like I guess the McCarty's where they have the volume knob closer to where a Fender is. So I like that. That works best for me. Modern was Nick Rainfield. Modern playability and tuning is a big plus. Plus and the cost is in reach. Yeah, hugely important for me at this point. I know Angus is chiming in, like he's on the road with the TSO. Like, you got to have the guitars that are going to stay in tune, and there's a certain level of value that you're willing to if something happens. Right. Okay. This is Jose saying that's the thing that Mayer said on his anniversary gig. Like, they're always great, always in tune. Intonation is perfect. Nothing bad about two nice guitars. Now, the other comment, this is now we're getting into, things like, oh, the guitar is too nice. It's almost too good. And so that's another bias, I think. For me, like, if a guitar is too good, like, why do I love Michael's guitars? Like, this is a 7 1/4 radius. And everybody who's picked it up has said, oh, is this like a 10 or a 12 radius? Because his fretwork and his fingerboard is so good that it's really, really comfortable to play. It does not feel like a 10-inch radius. It feels like, it does not feel like a 7 1/4. It feels like probably like a 10. And I love that about this guitar because I do have some of the benefits of chording that I really like about a 7 1/4, just the feel in the left hand when you're playing chords. And I'm bending in the actions where I normally keep it. I'm not fretting out. So a lot of times it comes down to the quality of the builder. So there's a lot of those things that go on too. 7 1/4 is terrible. Like, those are terrible. You can't bend strings. I'm like, really? Because I'm having no problems bending strings if somebody's does frets really well, And so when a guitar is too easy to play, I understand what people are saying, but sometimes I want a gig. I want it to play easy. I grew up as a shredder, so the past few gigs that I've been using, say like this or the DGT one, I was like, oh wow, forgot I could do some of that stuff on a stage. Because sometimes I'm playing an old Strat, it's just way more difficult to do it, for sure. And also, like, Les Pauls, I love them. I love Les Pauls. I love the sound of Les Paul. I love the look of a Les Paul. But I find, and every time I'm on a gig, I'm so used to Strat that I keep on messing up with the volume and the tone. I think I said that. Like, I'll turn down the neck pickup and then hit the bridge pickup and then turn back, and then the neck pickup volume's off, and you know what I mean? Like, makes me insane. So as much as I love them, I can never get off of that bridge pickup because when I do, I keep on messing up. Let's see what else we got. Here you go. Oh yeah, well, this is. Oh wow. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Okay, Leland, I had a 335 stolen and a vintage archtop. That's terrible. Yeah, yeah, you got to decide. I insure them because, it's worth insuring. This is from Tom Lane. There are lots of tones that sit great in a mix when you probably wouldn't like it when you're just sitting in your bedroom playing by yourself. Oh yeah, for sure. Like Voxes, I love the sound of Voxes on gigs. I don't like them at home because there's not a lot of low end. They're kind of sitting that middle in the jangly thing, which in a band is perfectly great, but at home it's a bit not my favorite sound. So every time I don't find them to be, you guys want to say, like the Two Rock or Fenders. When you play them at home, there's that really great, beautiful low end that on gigs I end up dialing way down. And most Marshalls, like, or even the Friedman, there's not super heavy low end, which makes them sit in that mix just perfectly. I don't understand how people get stuff stolen from gigs. Like, even when I was at school and I had my cheap classical right by my side, I never left it out of my sight. Shit happens, man. You turn your back, or you thought my friend had a guitar stolen. He thought his friend had an eye on it, like that kind of thing. It happens. If someone wants to steal something from you, they're going to, my friend had a Klon stolen off his pedal board at a gig. That's why I never brought a Klon to a gig. You know what I mean? When I had one. Nick Granville, I really love the DGT too. It plays more like a Strat, but sounds like a Les Paul. That's kind of my thing on it. It sounds Les Paul-ish, Gibson-ish, but plays Stratty. And I can use the neck pickup. It's almost like David. I was called David. I'm like, it's almost like you thought about this. Yeah. And like I said, I feel fine jumping back and forth. Because when I say ultimately on videos like, oh, I'm a Strat guy, what that means is I love this about the Stratocaster because I'm used to it. So that's why I've been so kind of enjoying the DGT, is because it feels like a Stratocaster, or David said for him it feels like a Telecaster on this hand. Telecaster with the tremolo, Dave? So that's why I like it so much. When I'm saying I'm a Strat guy, when I play Telecasters, which I love Telecasters, I'm missing, once again, I got to learn where the volume and the tone knob is. Yeah, and there's pluses for each of them. And like nothing really beats a Tele bridge pickup. I mean, I like Strat bridge pickup a lot, but I love Tele bridge pickups. That's an iconic sound. So, this is JL Trem. My arthritic carpal tunnel inflicted fretting hand is most comfortable with 7 1/4. Yeah, I love the feel of 7 1/4. I really, really like it. The favorite thing about the new Tuttle is the sparkly blue color. It's so nice. It matches your eyes, by the way. Funny. Thanks. Yeah, it's a cool color, isn't it? It's great. Nick Rainville, what's your favorite 2-Rock? I was really impressed by those amps at NAMM. It is the Bloomfield Drive. So I'm rocking here right now. Yep. Clean channel. KTR. And the KTR on the lead channel. Just the lead channel. That's the 2-Rock, the Bloomfield Drive, that's definitely my favorite. Why? It's a bit more rocky than the other ones. I haven't spent any time with the TS1. I've played them, thought it sounded amazing, but I haven't spent any real time with it. Classic reverb signature I've had for a really long time. I love that. I particularly like it with the Strat, but it doesn't have an overdrive channel, and I really love the overdrive on the Bloomfield Drive. Also, the Bloomfield Drive is a bit more Marshall-y in the way it breaks up. It's a bit more dumbly but rocky, if that makes sense. So that kind of still ties me into this side over here. The most used amp I have is the Studio Signature combo for gigs, because it's small and light, and I don't use the gain in the amp. I just use my pedals for that. So I do have the effects loop coming in, the 2-Rock effects loop, which I'm looking forward to, because one of the problems about not having an effects loop, the 2-Rock circuit is largely preamp based for your overdrive. It certainly tubes, but it has the passive effects loop. So the 4-cable method has been something I do with the Friedman. It's really fun and cool. So I'm going to start doing it with the 2-Rock once they send that to me, it's in the mail. So that's pretty cool. Okay, a little data drop there for a second. I'm gassing for a 2-Rock now. Yeah, those are really, really good, and they can spoil you once you own one. Just, when you own any great amp, if you own like a great Fender, or anything, it's kind of ruins you. A great guitar can ruin you. That's one of the problems. So never AB once again. Oh, that's pretty funny. Eric Wade. Yes, while you're looking at the woman in the red dress, your boyfriend was Adrian Smith. Nicked your guitar. Pretty funny. I was actually thinking that when you said the girl walked by. So, do I still use Black Ice picks? Yeah, I am. Yep. I really, really like them a lot. These are the Diodario Black Ice. Right. 1.5 millimeter. Psionic Audio. Lyle, I was just thinking it doesn't sound like a Marshall, but like a really cranked AB 165 basement. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's to me, it's got that bark that that I find from Marshall with the basement kind of thing. Yeah, it doesn't sound like that, Sounds a little more JTM 45-ish or something. I don't know what it sounds like. And then with the T-Rock, I'm sorry, with the Fancy Pants guitar. Now that's the clean channel. Press pretty hard. So that's the clean channel. I've got to hit pretty hard for humbuckers. Then overdrive. I don't know. Doesn't sound generic to me. So this thing is killer, as you can hear. So once again, to the whole point of this conversation, which is taking on its own life, which is totally cool, is when I picked this up, it just made me want to play guitar. The guitar spoke to me, and I don't know. I've gotten used to the looks of PRSs. I think it's pretty cool. Usually in my youth, I would not have liked them or that fancy a top, but I don't know. This kind of worked on this one, and I thought it just sounded great, you know? And I didn't have any delay, a little bit. And split pickups, you know? Kind of hard to beat the thing. So yeah, it's different. I mean, the King in my collection, hold on. Much thicker on that neck. I mean, but it's got its things. So, I mean, yeah, this has got 70 years of mojo in it, but it's not going to sound the same. It's not supposed to sound the same. Right? If you guys just want for fun, I can do it live too. So we'll have this thing, hold on. The core version. My fine friends at Watchtower Guitars. Oops, just gotta recalibrate my hands on this. Now, I think it's pretty great. I prefer the other one, a little more, but this is pretty darn cool too. Yeah, I mean, Lyle, like, for the old Gibson, sure. I mean, it is what it is, right? Hold on. So once again, to bring it back to the beginning, is I'm really just trying to find the stuff that I'm going to use and like, that inspires me to play, and how the guitar can allow me to express what it is I want to do. So I've been finding that one has been really resonating with me. This thing for sure. It's just, it's like a great Strat. That gold top is amazing. Clearly. That's why I unloaded many things to get it, because I knew it was a pretty magical guitar. My 64, wait, hold on, just dig that out. And just like, show off stuff. I don't mean it that way. But, I mean, let's hear this for a sec. Generic Hendrix. So, I kind of got old strings. Yeah, that's got a thing too. So that's also brand new, and this is older than I am. All right. We are drawn to brands for their legacy, right? More nostalgic and romantic, absolutely, and familiar tone. And that tends to trump innovative versatility or blending classic sounds with modern craftsmanship. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point, Frank. And I'm glad you brought that up. I have that idea written in my notes, is that that's so ingrained in our head. I mean, I think about Les Paul, I think about Jimmy Page. Oh, by the way, go see the Led Zeppelin movie in IMAX. It's amazing. I went with Jason Laughlin. Go see that. It was amazing. And when we were there, it turns out that the director and the producer were there answering questions when we saw one of the nights there. So that was really cool to hear them talk about it, which was fun. So definitely go see the movie. And if you can, try to see it in the theater. What's your favorite pickup set for a Strat? Well, I'm working with Ron Ellis, and I love Ron's pickups. They are not inexpensive. So I mean, they're my favorite, but they're pricey. So if you want to go for something that's a little bit more not in that price range, I mean, Lawlers are always great. Man, I've played some great sounding Seymour Duncans. They've got their custom shop ones or whatever. I've got some DeMarzos I had in guitars that I thought were great. So they don't have to be super high end, but Lawlers are always like Lawlers. There's so many now. Anybody else want to chime in? But Fralins, a lot of those guys. I think the single coil thing is really. There's a lot of good pickup manufacturers. What I'm getting at, so hard for me to exactly say. But those are this is a 64 set in that guitar in the Tuttle, and this is a real 64. Hold on. So I mean, it's so hard to compare guitars like that as well. I mean, this guitar is like 7 pounds, so it's light. It's really super resonant, so it might not have all the same low end of a heavier guitar, but I also really love that I can carry it on my back and travel with it and play 2-hour sets and go, whew, you know what I mean? Like, and this is awesome, super light, you know. Right, Ron Ellis are not in the cards for us mere mortals. I'm friends with Ron, so that doesn't hurt. Ron's become a very good friend of mine. Doesn't hurt. I understand entirely. Lawlers, Fralins, Duncans. There's so many good ones. Big Hairy Guitars here, man. What is going on, dude? Michael Nielsen stopping in. Hope you're still here. You've seen Michael Nielsen's channel. It's the best. He's the best. BB's here. What's up, man? How you doing? Hope everything's okay. I'm just glad you're okay. That's all that matters. I've heard great comments about the Lawler Blondes. Absolutely. That's what I've heard as well. So, Texas Specials from the Custom Shop are really, like I said, there's so many good ones. I just happened to, through Keith, I'd met Ron at NAMM a few years ago, and he liked my True Fire stuff. We just kind of hit it off as people, and then I kind of lost contact with him, and then Keith hooked the both of us up again to 5-watt, and we just hit it off. He's such a great guy that we became friends. So I'm very fortunate in that angle that he would give me some stuff to check out in my guitars. I've got them in a bunch of things, so I'm very, very happy with them. Okay, so back to the beginning. I think it comes down to, like we said, I think we're talking about, right? Tribalism. It's people get really set in their ways of what they like, and they self-identify with that. Like, this is this, and everything else is crap. If it's not Scottish, it's crap. And I'm trying to pull away from that because I'm always pretty surprised when I try something that you might really, really like. You know what I mean? That's an interesting thing. Just try it. Try it. That's the point of my stuff today. Is just give something a try. Like, I didn't really... PRSs was a thing in my head, like, no. And I just started playing some. It took me a little bit to find the ones that I liked. And of course, it turns out to be the DGT is my favorite one. And people give Paul a lot of crap about the tone woods thing. Wood doesn't make a difference. Okay, my one thought on that I will absolutely say is when Michael first made me this guitar, we had a different neck on it. I decided to go for a thicker neck. The guitar sounded different when you put a different neck on it. Not just acoustically, amplified. Do the pickups. Same pickups, different neck. The guitar sounded different. So, when people say the wood doesn't make a difference, they're just wrong. It makes a difference. Lyle, what say you? People get really, really crazy, about the whole stuff. About this tone wood thing, and pickups do this and pickups don't do that, and they sound different. And if a guitar doesn't do it acoustically, if you're playing metal, like super heavy stuff with really lots of distortion, you're not going to notice it as much. But if you're playing the kind of stuff that I think everybody's here for, more bluesy, kind of more, not metal's no good tone, but tony stuff, that's where you're really going to hear those differences. And I think that's when how much resonance a guitar has, how much low end, and all those things are a big deal. Okay, so let's got some cool questions here. Wow, a lot of people here. What's up, everybody? Jazzmaster is the greatest guitars ever. Yeah, those are cool. I can't get with them. That's because I just don't play them. If I played them a really long time, I'd probably get with them too. In general, what's your take on modern Strats from Fender? I think they can be really great. I've just found, this is where, people, the guy might have called me a shill for PRS. I've been to the PRS factory. I've not been to the Fender factory. Everything I've played, and I've played a lot of PRSs over Watchtower guitars, and every single one of them plays great. Just right out of the box. They set them all up. ones that come in from Indonesia, like the SC models, they reset them up to make sure that they're going out. So they have a crew that sets all those up. So that's one thing I find sometimes with Fender is lacking, and my guitar repairman friends are like, oh. So I found them to be spotty. It can be great. You can get a really great one. You can maybe not get a great one. I found sometimes the weight of Fenders can be a bit all over the place. You know what I mean? You can get like a Strat at under 8 pounds or 7.5 pounds. The next one's 8.2 pounds, and that starts to get heavy for me for a Stratocaster. But I think you got to play the guitar you're getting. That's kind of important too. Enough that answers it. Okay. Duke, right. I just got here. I'm looking at a PRS 594 hollow body with a torrefied maple neck. Have you ever played one? Have any thoughts? I have not played a 594, but you guys know I have a... It's all ridiculous, I know. I have a PRS with a torrefied neck, and I really like it. It's the PRS. It's this one that you've seen me play for a while. These are the Ron Ellis pickups in this. So that's the torrefied neck, and I really like it. I've not played a 594 with one. Okay. How long do you consider when saying you don't play it anymore of a guitar, like a couple months or a year or less? And that goes back to, I still have my... Two questions. Okay, answer that question. Do I still have my Landau Custom Shop 68? Yeah, I do, and I'm actually going to sell that, the black Custom Shop Landau. If you want to reach, if you're interested, just reach out, mackerlanemusic@gmail. I think it's a great guitar. I'm just not going to play it over my Total Signature or my old Strat at this point. So it's a great guitar. I think it's really cool. So that answers that question. And so, you know, if I don't play it for like 6 months or a year, I really start to think about, why am I keeping this? Or is it worth it selling it? Like, I've got my Yngwie Malmsteen, which, you know, is kind of a novelty, but I got it so inexpensively. And if I turned around and sold it, I'm not going to get that much money for it. And then I'm not going to get another one, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You know, so I'm probably not going to rebuy a Malmsteen, and I got one at a good price. So certain things I'm going to hold on to. Someone wanted to hear the DGT with the Ellis pickups. Sure. All right, hold on. So this is the Ron Ellis pickups. These are the Ron Ellis Signature redone wiring. So, that's the Klon. And the fuzz. Yep, that's that one. So, yeah, I got 3 DGTs at the moment. So, yeah, these two. All right, any more questions? Oh, yeah, wait, hold on. Chris Quinn had a question, too, about the tremolo. Yeah, hold on a second. You mentioned before in the comments, can you tell me what you notice about the brightness on a PRS guitars with trems? I think we talked about that in the PRS video. I think that was you. I have a certain brightness on them. Yeah, I mean, it could be the tremolo. I don't know. I haven't really A-B'd it. There is a brightness to some of the PRSs. It could be, like I said, the trem. I don't know exactly what it is, but one thing I did notice when I did change some of the electronics, it was a little less bright, and I think part of that. Now you have to remember, this is really important, that that guitar is exactly the way David Grissom likes it. And that may not be exactly the way, I don't know about the other ones, but usually these are exactly the way David likes it. So for me, this was a little brighter than I liked. I don't really generally like treble bleeds, so this one is brand like different pots, the ones that Ron recommended. I don't remember. Alpha pots, that's what it is. And his pickups, and I said I want it to be kind of single coily in the neck. So he said the signature. But I mean, it's a really articulate guitar. So yeah, those are changed pickups. Hard to say though, because also this has got that different thing going on right there. So let's go back to this other one. Let's go to the core, right? Try the core one. Hold on. I know this is super nerdy. So here's the core. More output. Now, also what I'm hearing there is there's treble bleeds on this, there's no treble bleeds on that. So when I roll back the volume on that guitar, they get darker faster. These don't really get that dark. A little bit. And David likes that. So this is set up exactly what he does. So sometimes you want to personalize these things. And at least I did. Because there were certain things I was like, what I did on that guitar was the DGT volumes. This is the volume for the neck is right here, and the volume for the bridge is right here. So what I did on other guitars, I just put a master volume in 2 tones because that made more sense to me, like a Fender. I was finding on gigs when I went to the neck pickup, I'm kind of jumping back and forth and all that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the core even sounds amazing. I think it looks great too. I really love the birds. I mean, the moons too. Okay, I have 3 different PRSs, old Swamp Ash core, single cut core, and a DGT, different guitars with similar brightness. Well, could be the pickups. I would try that first, and the electronics. I had that discussion with Robin Ford. He kind of changed out some of the electronics, and he thinks it made the guitar a little warmer as well. Yeah, so I can hear that bright thing on that one. Yeah, it's a little, Yeah, it's definitely got a bright at the top. And attack. So let's try this one. Doesn't quite have the same brightness. Right? Now, this doesn't quite have it as much acoustically either, nor does that one. So this is what I was saying a lot of times with the PRS is like I do my friends at Watchtower, I just kind of could sit around and play all of them and find the one that I liked the most. Guitar is art. I recently sold a DGT for another one. Love the new one so much more resonant, all around better sounding. Different pieces of wood makes a big difference. Absolutely. So I do have the luxury of, having a friend store it, but I would also try out a bunch if you can to find the one that works for you. Like this one. Doesn't have it, or smooth. So this one more time, guys. And I don't think this. Right, so that doesn't quite have that same thing. It's hard to tell. This says that semi-hollow, so it's not as much low end, and it's different. So it's hard to tell. Hard to A/B them in that sense. How many electrics do you have now? Not that many, actually. That's all relative, isn't it? A bunch, but I don't know exactly. What's up, David? How you doing, man? More than some and a lot less than others. Have you played a soap bar PRS, and what do you think of the P90s in general? I like P90s a lot. I've not tried the PRS ones, but I like P90s a lot. One of the reasons why I don't end up using them that much is because they're even noisier than regular single coils. So there's definitely gigging with P90s can be tricky, because the hum, for sure. Now, when I'm on the road, I use usually the noise-free pickups just because I don't want to deal with it. And I really like single coils, but I like not having noise. It's really nice. So I did a gig the other night with this and that, and those aren't noise-free pickups. And I remember just switching from this and then put that, and I was like, hey, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, single coils, So there's a thing about it. How many guitars do I have in rotation? That's a good question. Right now, it's the Tuttle, and the 53. Yeah. Those are the main ones at the moment. Someone's got a trumpet walking down the street. I love Fender, Gibsons, and Marshalls, that is. That's it. You need to get out more. There's lots of great stuff. I love Fender. Who doesn't love Fender, Gibson, and Marshall? Come on. All right. Love that PRS. I like this one a lot, too. Less than Bonamassa is always a great answer. Or Billy Gibbons, who's got like an outrageous collection. And so pretty funny. Some of my friends, a lot of people don't want to talk about how much, how many guitars they have. Brooklyn background noise. Yeah, there's a school down the block, so that's probably what it is. So, what I like about this, you guys can hear what I like about this stuff. Now, what I also like about, say, like the Core one, which that one may not have the depth of this one. That's why I bought this one, right? And traded some stuff to get it. PRS did not give this to me. There you go. There we go. All right. So, because it had something going on that I dug. The Core, I think it's cool. Like the Core would be something like, okay, I'm going to just bring that to Europe on a gig. Would I bring this and travel with it? Yeah, probably, maybe. It's a limited edition. Maybe I get a little too attached to it. Sometimes when I'm on the road, I just want to bring things that I'm not really worried about. So a Core to me would be pretty amazing. They're great guitars. You know what I'm saying? I can't bring the other one too much. It's got a Brazilian board and all that kind of stuff. There we go. Now he's just being annoying. David Kazan, I just got the new Licks course, the new Licks lesson, and it's great. Okay, don't forget I got the course on sale of the foundational licks. Posted that lick, so. There you go. Less than I would have been my answer lately. It's funny, like, I'm just getting to I'm trying to just boil it down, Any thoughts on hollow body Losa? I don't know that one. It does sound like an elephant for sure. Would you recommend aux box or real amps to play at home? Sorry to spam. Oof. If you're just talking about plugging in and playing, just an amp. The aux for me is just really for recording. I don't ever play, or this kind of stuff. I don't ever play, the Marshall. Like if I'm going to play through the T-Rock and I want to get the sound of the amp just in the room, I'll just use that. I'll just use my amp with the cabinet because I just like the sound of that organic thing. Something like an aux, of course, is just to make an amp sound like it's mic'd, right? So you'd have to run it through a PA or a DAW or something like that, like I'm doing right now. And then in terms of the attenuation feature in the aux, like if you want to crank your amp and then turn it down, I don't really care for it. If you're going to do something like that, I would use the Fryette Power Station, which is really, you're reamping at a lower volume. But sometimes just a nice amp with a pedal is going to do the job. But if you're playing through like your home's system, like I have here with my speakers and such, it's like a Fractal or a Quad Cortex or something like that. Those are great too, just because you can adjust the volume, you can play. It's got everything in it. I think that's a really cool thing to be able to do that. But if you're playing in your living room and you want to plug into a nice amp, like I would like an amp. I mean, I love T-Rocks, but I mean that's a lot of money for an amp that you're going to play in your living room. If you have the money, yeah, and I'm not going to tell anybody how to spend their money or not. But just a nice, cool Fender kind of amp. I'd like to stop the addiction. Yeah, I know. They're cool. Guitars are cool. Do you bring the cases to gigs, or do you use fancy gig bags? Always a gig bag. That was also one of the things with the PRS. I mean, the 335 thing. Like the cases are big and the gig bag's a pain. I just want to bring a guitar in a gig bag. So that's sometimes why I shy away from playing Gibsons on gigs too, because then I got to carry a case, and I hate cases. So you can put a Gibson in a bag, but those headstocks. This thing I can throw in a bag and it's cool. You know what I mean? Right, BV, right. The aux is not really an attenuator per se. The Fryette, the sur-reactive loads are better roots for sure. And the Fryette, because then you can reamp it, which is the way to go. Then you're getting the amps doing its thing. But once again, now who was talking about this? Was that guy hitting Pauly, right? The German YouTuber guy, and Fryette were talking about that. Don't forget, if you're running your amp, I'm running it through the aux right now, but I'm on like 4 on the amp volume. If you're running your Marshall on 10 all day long, through a Fryette Power Station, you're beating up that amp for sure. And that's what we talked about. So like he had a Marshall that blew up on him. And it's because if there's a tube that's sort of maybe on the way out and you're running an amp at 100 watts on 10 all day, or, that would be a big, I'm sorry, I got distracted there for a second. That's a lot on an amp. And it's going to, as they were talking about, it's going to show up any flaw that's in the amp, anything that's about to fail. If you're running something and it gets really hot, and you're leaving it on for hours, you would never really do that. It's not really designed to do that, because the tubes, the reason why they sound cool when we distort them is because you're pushing them past to where they're supposed to really have been designed to work. So if you're not pushing them that hard, they're going to last longer. So also if you have some sort of caps or resistors that are prone to failing or leaning towards failing, or transistor that would be fine, a transformer that would be fine at lower volumes might just fry at a high volume. So one thing that I don't really subscribe to is, unless you can get away with a recording, is to crank the amp for a really long time into the power station or something like that. And then I'm putting a lot of wear and tear on a 1972 amp that I would not normally play at that volume anyway. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is exactly what kind of BV was saying too. It's not really designed for that, but if you are using a power station or something like that and you're cranking your amp, you're basically running your amp really, really hard. And it's going to fail at some point. A tube's going to go. The more you do it, something's going to go. It just is. So usually when I'm running this, I kind of have the volume a little bit lower. The T-Rocks don't need to be on 10 to sound their best either. They're not entirely preamp based, but they have a lot of that overdrive sounds coming from the preamp, that kind of dumble-ish thing. I have a Robin Ford PRS. Really enjoy hearing your experience talking with Robin during its development. Any other memories from that exchange? It's my favorite guitar. Yeah, well, it was, he had Paul had sent him a few guitars. He used one on a True Fire video a while ago that I was there while he was filming that. And I sent him some, and he's like, I don't know. He was, on the fence about the look, because, he's very traditional with that. And, Paul really wanted to bring him in, and I was just saying, I was like, I thought they were great. I was just like, it comes down to aesthetics for you. If you like, he's like, well, I wish the headstock were a little bigger, or maybe He doesn't really like the blingy top, and I'm not taking any credit for it. I was like, well, they don't have to do it in any color you want, I'm sure. And then I think Paul sent him a few other guitars during the time, and I think he just decided to go with it to check it out because he's always looking for something, And I think he's really happy with it. People say like, oh, I like him better on his Tele. It's just a Tele sounds like a Tele. He sounds great on his Tele. That's an amazing Telecaster. But he has said to me and everybody else, like, I just pick up the PRS and it's always good. Like, it just plays great. It's in tune. I never fret. Like, the truss rod stays where you leave it. You know what I mean? Like, all those things are really important to think about, that he enjoyed, that we talked about too. So that was really the main stuff. And those are great guitars. I really like those. Hey, Jeff, I'm looking at DGTs right now. Semi-hollow body or core first? Well, that's a tough one. I mean, the core is not, semi-hollow body is an expensive guitar. It is, for sure. So I'm fully aware of how much money it is. And the core is not inexpensive. I would, if somebody said to me, well, you heard both, right? So I would lean towards this is if you're going to think about that price range, the same as a custom shop Gibson. And if you really love it, I would go for the semi-hollow. I really love it. And at Watchtower had a few of them, and they said all of them are really great. Not that the cores aren't that good, but you can hear like they sound different. There's definitely wood is a different quality. Not quality. It's a wooden guitar. It's gonna sound different. But how's that for a weird answer? I really like this guitar a lot. It surprised me how much I liked it. It's a BV. You have to watch the mains electric voltage is not hot if you're running any kind of vintage amp. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's usually what leads to amps failing. I remember when like the hot plate came out years ago, like people were like, oh, those things destroy amps. And really what the answer to that was not, they don't destroy amps, just your amp was not designed to run that way. And then if people would be like, I'm just going to crank my Marshall for hours every day on 10 and get this great guitar sound, and then it's got to blow up. You know what I mean? So, so Duke, right, the hollow body is amazing, and so is the DGT core. They are too, and the SE is amazing. So I would have to say, I would love to maybe try to play one. You know what I mean? That's if you can play the one that you like. I mean, I think that the straight core sounds great too. I mean, there's something about this that drew me to it, but. I just want to play it. So I don't know. Is there a starter train wreck? 2 rock amp? Probably not. Just asking for a friend. No. Well, the least expensive one may be the traditional clean or the Reverb, classic Reverb Studio Signature. The Studio Signature. Both are great. The Studio Signature, like I gig with it all the time, but I use pedals with it, and I don't use the amp. There's no amp overdrive in it, unless you crank it to amazingly loud. So it's really designed for a pedal platform. But no, sadly not. They are pretty premium. All right. I don't want to run pretty late. So I went through a bunch of PRS guitars today. So, once again, play what you love. That's all. Play what makes you want to play music. And I would definitely say to people, if you're only like Fenders or Gibsons, I get it. They're iconic. When I see a picture of a burst Les Paul and a Marshall, it's, it's the coolest thing in the world. That's why I own them. And they have a particular sound that I really, really love. So they're iconic and they're the best. But I would just kind of say, like, for everybody, when they get really locked into that feeling of like everything else sucks, it's not really true. I think if you go out and try something new, you'll be surprised at what's out there. and you want to play, it makes me want to play. And that was the thing about this guitar. I picked it up. I'm like, well, I just want to play this thing. And I think really guitar, that's the ultimate thing. Like with Michael's guitar, I just want to play it. And I've had other guitars that I've loved that were great sounding guitars. I just didn't find myself playing them. So that's the thing. So you start to kind of, almost automatically you start to pare down the guitar. So for me, like, there's a few of the handful things that I would just love to play at all the time. And right now I'm feeling very happy with this and my Tuttle because they cover all the bases I want. And though not inexpensive, I'm a professional. And but they don't need to be expensive. The new SEs are great. The SE Silver Skies are great. Played a bunch of those like road worn Strats, and they were just great. You just got to find the right one. And that's the thing about all of them, whether it's a super high end guitar or not. If you're going to buy a guitar, try one that you can return because it might not speak to you. And I mean this with all humility. I've been doing this my whole life, and what I hear on a guitar now, after getting involved in the vintage guitar world and helping people buy some vintage guitars, is I've learned to spot a good guitar, or things that are a good guitar to me. And so that's a big part of it too, that I can tell fairly quickly that this is a guitar I'm really going to like. Sometimes I'll get one home and I think I'm going to like it, and I just never end up really getting to it. But play what makes you happy. Definitely try spread out a little bit. We're in a magical period of guitars. There's Sir, and there's all the guys been around for a while too, like Anderson and Tyler, and then there's Michael Tuttle, and there's all these great builders that may be making, I would say, generally a better quality instrument than Fender's making on the whole. Sorry, Fender. I love that it says Fender in the headstock too, but it's not a real comparison when you play one of John's guitars or one of Michael's guitars and you A/B it to like a Fender of the same price. There's just not. It's a different thing. You know what I mean? But if it's got to say Fender on it, then just play what makes you happy. Play the guitar that inspires you, and try a bunch of things because you may really, really be surprised. Like this came in, I was like, I was already fine with PRSs, but I just started playing it, and I was like, wow, totally didn't expect that. And that PRS, like if I had a ton of money, I would have bought the 335 as well. I just didn't have the money, you know what I mean? Of course, and buying two of those things, All right. Do you have an acoustic in your stable? I do. I've got an old National over there, and I've got a Martin. I don't really play a lot of acoustic. Also New York weather. Every decent acoustic I've had, the top's always broken. I'm an electric guitar player. I really like acoustic, but I'm an electric guitar player. It's kind of really the thing. Hey, thanks for the top chat, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our friends up north. Trainwreck. You seem like you're a good Trainwreck guy. I love the one I built. I played Trainwrecks. I did the thing up for Premier Guitar many years ago. I've tried a bunch of Trainwrecks. And then I had a Comet here. And I did a thing with Keith where I had a Comet, my friend Holger, part owner of the company. And we had the Z-Wreck. I really, really liked the Trainwrecks. They're amazing. They need to be loud. And I found them a little hard to tame. So then you're starting to have to bring out like a load box or an attenuate. So for me, the Two Rocks really hit the sweet spot of having a great master volume and a great sounding amplifier. And Eli, the owner of the company, is one of my really good friends. He's a great guy, and I love working with them because they're really good people. So, all right, cool. Thanks so much. Thanks to BB for being here. He's been really hitting the stuff there. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you like the channel, please do that. Go over to Jam Guitar Lessons. You can get all the free backing tracks using the link to the YouTube freebies. I've got my Foundational Blues Licks course on sale. If you guys want to check that out, go to yesterday's video on a blues lick. You can get the free background track. You got all the background tracks. All that stuff really helps me out. So once again, like and subscribe. Thanks for letting me blab about overpriced guitars. And you guys are the best. I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. And I got to turn this thing off. How do I turn this off? See you guys. Thanks. Bye.